A row of fully armed police officers were watching the underwater serial killer who had killed multiple people. The police surrounded him in the water. Even though it was only a small area, the police brought in a pump to drain the water and expose the killer. Unfortunately, there was only one oxygen tank below. The killer took advantage of the distraction and made his escape, disappointing the police chief. Just then, they received a report from the Chaoyang district that a suspicious person in a diving suit had been spotted nearby. The police chief rushed to the scene and indeed found traces of the killer. At the same time, the killer seized a speedboat and attempted to escape. The police chief followed closely behind, engaging in a fierce pursuit on the complex river channels. Finally, with the police chief hot on his heels, the killer made a mistake and collided with a cruise ship, causing an explosion. Surprisingly, the killer survived the explosion and quickly hid in a nearby sewage pipe. The police chief pursued him into the pipe, but was shot by the killer and fell into a coma. However, before losing consciousness, the police chief managed to hit the killer's diving mask. When the police chief woke up, he found himself in the hospital, where he recounted the chase to his colleagues and girlfriend. He was certain that he had shot the killer's diving mask. His girlfriend assured him that his injury was not serious, but she couldn't accompany him because she had to go see a psychologist. As luck would have it, the psychologist was not at home, so the bored girlfriend wandered around and ended up in the basement of the psychologist's house. To her horror, she discovered that the basement was connected to the nearby river channels, and in one corner hung a diving suit stained with blood, along with a broken diving mask. She suddenly remembered what the police chief had said: the killer was their psychologist. She hurried back to the living room and called the hospital. The person who answered the phone was a nurse. The girlfriend asked the nurse to tell the police chief that the psychologist was the serial killer. Just then, the psychologist returned home. He tried to quietly enter the basement but accidentally kicked an iron can, alerting the doctor. The doctor came out with a handgun to investigate and was knocked unconscious by the girlfriend, who was hiding in the dark. Just as she sighed with relief, a water ghost wearing a diving suit suddenly emerged from the water and grabbed her ankle, trying to drag her into the water. Luckily, she managed to grab onto a nearby railing in the nick of time. At that critical moment, the police chief arrived and fired several shots at the killer. The killer was hit by the bullets and disappeared into the water once again. The psychologist also regained consciousness and revealed the killer's true identity to the police chief. It turned out that the killer was the psychologist's good friend and an excellent diver. 3 years ago, a group of capitalists hired him to salvage something from the seabed, but it turned out to be nuclear waste. During the salvage operation, the waste leaked, causing the killer's disfigurement. From that moment on, his mind twisted, and he became a vengeful serial killer. With the address provided by the psychologist, the police chief and his team rushed to the water ghost's home to make an arrest, only to find that Jones had already committed suicide with a spear gun. The shocking nationwide water ghost murder case finally came to an end.